Welcome to Rob Schmitt tonight. Biden taking heavy fire just as sources indicate he'll actually attempt a run for re-election. Today, Merrick Garland announcing a special counsel to look into now 3 sets of classified documents found at Biden's either Delaware home or at his office, as well as the office, I should say, for his think tank, where Biden teamed up with the University of Pennsylvania to bring in loads of filthy, dirty Chinese money used to weaken and hopefully destroy this nation, but enrich Biden and his buddies over at UPenn. Tens of millions in donations from our country's greatest adversary, and the documents were held there at the office. But the once untouchable Joe Biden, whose alleged crimes, corruption, and sleaze were ignored by a complicit media, is suddenly no longer off limits. Biden's big problem, this scandal, almost identical to Trump's, came entirely too soon. The media has carried him as far as they could. They ignored obvious, indisputable evidence of corruption to shove him into the White House in 2020, but now Biden has made a fool of them. The administration pushing the media to eviscerate Donald Trump for a crime that they knew Biden had also committed. Biden and his cronies clutching their pearls on cable news, on 60 Minutes, organizations that embarrass themselves yet again, hours and days and weeks of constant news coverage and speculation that Trump was selling classified information to our enemies. And then later they had to quietly admit, as the Washington Post did, that Trump's motive was mostly ego and nostalgia, just another black eye for a media that's been battered by plummeting public opinion for selling its soul to the Democrat Party. And so the orders came from on high, from the honchos who own and control our obedient corporate press. The Biden classified document story will not be covered up. And what a dramatic change we saw. And we saw it happen today. When was the last time you heard the media come after Joe Biden and the White House like this?
Was the president sloppy in his handling of classified material after multiple locations where classified documents are being found?
Can you shed any light on how the documents got to these places and why?
You didn't talk about the second set of documents, discovered almost a month prior, because a review was underway.
How can you say this was transparent when you've sat on this information for more than 2 months?
The first set of documents were found in November at the Penn Biden Center here in Washington. But why did it take until yesterday and until this morning, apparently, for whoever it was to inform Robert Lausch that that final document was found?
It was quite something today watching the press briefing. And remember, this is not the first time that Biden has screwed up. This is just the first time they've decided to actually cover it. There's been way worse stuff that they should have been following for the last several years. Way worse. And when was the last time you saw a Biden screw up at the top of the Washington Post and the New York Times websites? What planet are we on? It's almost unrecognizable, and it's shifted just that fast. They're not protecting him anymore. This story was a bridge too far. To cover this up so close to what happened to former President Trump would mean selling out their last bit of credibility. And maybe they would do that for the party, but they're not just going to do it for Joe Biden. The midterms are over, after all. Perhaps the party and the media apparatus they control would maybe like to see a fresh face for 2024. Maybe Biden at 80 is done and they know it. Maybe a fresh face with less baggage. Maybe one that doesn't go on national TV and excoriate his predecessor for having classified documents in his basement, which was guarded by Secret Service agents with AR-15s, while fully knowing that he had classified documents in his garage for years as a private citizen, just sitting in dusty boxes right behind the Corvette. Today, our new House Speaker Kevin McCarthy excoriated Joe Biden just minutes after Garland announced a special counsel. Take a listen to this.
President Biden, he wasn't president. He was vice president. He held these in different locations right out in the open. He criticized President Trump. Did he utilize the Justice Department to raid President Trump? Did you think that was right? They knew this has happened to President Biden before the election, but they kept it a secret from the American public. He goes on 60 Minutes, criticizes President Trump, even knowing what he has done, and he wasn't president at the time. Now we find another location that it's at, but he refused to answer. His press secretary won't answer the questions. You watched them leak photos of sitting out files of President Trump. Where's the photos of President Biden's documents? Where are those photos at? He knowingly knew this happened going into election, going into interviews. This is what makes America not trust their government.
That was a good rant. And this is a gut punch for the White House. Again, of course, this is the first time the press has really ever done their job with Biden in the White House. All of a sudden, it's not just, our guy and Fox's guy asking tough questions. There's like 30 people asking tough questions, hammering at them, chipping away at them. And obviously, the press secretary can't handle that. We know that. Biden today trying to find any silver lining that he can, getting hammered with questions after a press conference to brag about 6.5% inflation. Biden actually said this and thought that this excuse was going to help him. Take a listen.
Look, I'm going to get a chance to speak on all this, God willing, soon. But as I said earlier this week, people, and by the way, my Corvette's in a locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting out in the street.
Got a locked garage. Top secret documents. The garage was locked. Priceless. But as Merrick Garland's DOJ raids no Biden homes and special counsel Robert Hur begins his investigation that will, of course, absolve the president. We all know what's going to happen whenever this thing ends in a year, maybe longer. Biden actually does have bigger problems. The support system that helped save the midterms for the Democrat Party from Biden's disastrous first 2 years is collapsing. In addition to blasting Biden's classified document disaster on the front page, the New York Times today actually reported on Hunter Biden. Now, to be fair, it was a massive gaslight, but it speaks volumes to a shifting landscape. Today's piece, a soft-soaked, self-serving write-up on Hunter to save the New York Times. The Times predicts gun and tax charges could be coming at any time for Hunter, at times trying to protect its own reputation after protecting the Bidens for the past several years. The Times admitting Hunter is in trouble, but explaining that their blatantly partisan move of ignoring the story as they have for the last several years, well, that was just because the hoopla over Hunter was exaggerated by Republicans, and there really wasn't a big story there. They actually tried to get away with this. The entire piece from the New York Times today actually takes the Biden's defense over all the allegations and basically just gives them to you as fact. What Biden has said is the truth, and that's why you shouldn't care about this story. Is one of the most embarrassing examples of trash journalism we've seen yet from this failing once great newspaper. The Times claiming that Republicans have yet to demonstrate that Joe was involved in Hunter's shady and corrupt deals of selling influence. The Times claiming that during the famous golf outing with Joe, Hunter, and Devin Archer there on the left, Hunter's business partner, where we found this picture, the Times claiming that no business was discussed during a, 4.5-hour round of golf. The Times makes that claim that no business was discussed based on what exactly? Oh, well, that's because the Bidens and Devin Archer said that they didn't talk about business. And the Times reports it as fact. Just spectacular. A denial of corruption from the Biden family means that the Biden family isn't corrupt. Well, does that work for all crimes? If I kill somebody, can I just say I didn't kill them? You didn't kill them. The Times also ignoring Hunter's other business partner, Tony Bobulinski, who says Joe was part of all of this. And remember, Bobulinski was a hand-in-hand partner on a huge deal in China, and says, yeah, Joe was all in on all of it. It was Joe and Hunter. They were a team. 10% for the big guy. You know how it goes. Also, he has loads of proof that the New York Times refuses to look at. Also ignoring text messages from Hunter's laptop, where Hunter complains about having to carve out huge amounts of the money he makes for his father. Quote, but unlike Pop at the bottom, I won't make you give me half your salary. Now, the New York Times can try to save face now that they've apparently declared Joe Biden politically dead and are coming after him like the rest of the media. But we all know that the New York Times is finished as well.